Hi everyone, welcome back to Demand Decoded. Dan here as usual, and it's a solo episode today, and we're talking about LinkedIn ads. And in particular, I'm gonna cover why your LinkedIn ads aren't working and how to fix that. It's actually funny how many times I hear the question, have been asked the question, why aren't my LinkedIn ads working? And it's a generic question, but it is rooted in not seeing any measurable improvement in data, MQLs, leads, pipeline revenue from LinkedIn ads themselves. So if you've tried LinkedIn ads and you've walked away because you've thought maybe they're too expensive, maybe they didn't generate any qualified leads for you, maybe they didn't move the needle in terms of pipeline and revenue, this episode will hopefully unpack some of the common reasons why LinkedIn ads simply just fail for so many businesses. They are extremely expensive in a lot of cases, depending on who you're targeting, but most of the time it will be, high level professionals who will be highly concentrated markets where a lot of businesses are trying to target those with ads, which does make them a really expensive channel a lot of the time to serve ads on. And you need to make sure that these ads are performing in the best way possible to build your brand, to drive demand for exactly what you do, capture qualified leads who are in market to buy, and ultimately drive pipeline and revenue and growth for your business. Every investment that you have in marketing should aim to do that, and LinkedIn is absolutely no different. It's just a channel that people, for some reason, struggle to get right despite all of the right things existing on the platform itself. So yeah, in this episode, we'll unpack all of that and hopefully give you the best advice possible to fix those LinkedIn ads that just aren't working for you. Before we get into the episode today, here's a quick word from our sponsors, HubSpot. You don't become the world's most valuable women's sports franchise by accident. Angel Cities Football Club did it with a little help from HubSpot. When they started, data was housed across multiple systems. HubSpot unified their website, email marketing, and fan experience all in one platform. This allowed their small team of just 3 to build an entire website in just 3 days. The result? Nearly 350 new signups a week and 300% database growth in just 2 years. Visit HubSpot.com to hear how HubSpot can help you grow better. Let's start with the main core issue when it comes to actually LinkedIn as a channel more broadly, not just the ads themselves. And the main issue is that your audience, your buyers, just aren't on LinkedIn. Let's face it, not all industries, not all professionals will be on LinkedIn every single day. If we think about industries like, selling to hospitals and medical professionals where they might not be able to access LinkedIn all the time and they don't like to consume LinkedIn content in their personal time, there's a good chance they're going to be really hard to reach on that platform. And other channels will actually give you a better opportunity to reach those. It may be conferences that they go to. It may be communities that they're part of. How do you get your content? How do you get your ads into those places? How do you get your brand seen in those places where they actually are? So yeah, LinkedIn, of course, starts with understanding your audience, understanding that they're there, understanding the kind of content mediums that they enjoy consuming too. And all of that starts with audience research. It's something that we've spoken about time and time again on Demand Decoded. Ultimately, doing that upfront audience and customer research will allow you to understand where your audience goes to consume information, which channels they actually operate on in terms of social and other, information consumption needs and things like that. And if LinkedIn isn't actually coming up in that research, you don't have to use it as a channel. Just because it's kind of become the default advertising channel for a lot of B2B companies doesn't mean it has to be for yours. Ultimately, you should be putting your budget in the best place possible to reach your buyer so that you can, build up brand awareness, brand affinity with them, drive demand for exactly what you do, and ultimately convert them whenever that buying trigger occurs later down the line. For most B2Bs, your audience will be on LinkedIn. It's just a matter of fact. It is the biggest professional network, the biggest professional social channel. Your LinkedIn, your audience will most likely be on LinkedIn. You know, there will be those exceptions that I just spoke about, but for the most part, they will be on LinkedIn. But what I've seen time and time again is targeting that is just way, way, way too broad. And when it comes to LinkedIn, as I mentioned at the start, they are expensive ads, and they get more and more expensive as you start to target more senior professionals who are going to be targeted by more and more companies, and the competition heats up. But one of the biggest mistakes I see is just burning budget on an audience that simply cannot and will not ever be able to buy from you or influence a purchasing decision for your brand. So, for example, if you're going after CFOs for mid-market SaaS companies, your targeting should reflect that, or at least branch out just into the kind of buying committee and influencers, or maybe champion for a product that you're trying to sell. But you shouldn't be, targeting any more than the financial responsibilities within a business and, that financial kind of vertical within that. If you end up seeing that your demographics are all of a sudden branching out into IT, procurement, sales, then you have a huge problem on your hand when it just comes to those demographics alone. But actually what you often see more so is people loosening the reins on kind of like industries, company sizes, the kind of things that allow you to have a broader audience, but probably aren't your actual ICP themselves. The way that I've always done LinkedIn targeting is to target our best customers already. If you're not yet ready to serve your exact future ICP, then trying to build a brand with them is a good thing, but trying to actually make them buy from you when you're actually not in a position to serve them is probably not a good thing. So one thing that I've always done with some success is basically enable our LinkedIn audience to be our highest fit ICP that we're already selling to, that are already a fantastic fit for our business, because it enables us to get the best ROI back from our budget. Because we know that we're targeting an audience who are already a fantastic fit for us. We can serve them perfectly, and we probably already have the case studies and the trust and those kind of signals to actually back up what we're saying within that. There's other best practices that we've talked about before on this podcast, like don't use audience expansion, only target the actual LinkedIn platform itself, not the audience network, because you need to be thinking here, audience expansion is just going to be expanding your audience into other people on the platform who actually aren't in your perfect fit persona or ICP. Why would you want to be spending budget on people who you haven't defined that you want to target, and not enabling the LinkedIn audience, the network expansion is just a really quick way to waste budget on showing your ads in inefficient places where your buyers probably aren't, and where they're not at least consuming that kind of information. There's a reason why you've probably come to LinkedIn as a platform to use and show ads, and it's because that's where your buyers are, and they consume content there, and that's where they operate. So that is a huge issue that I see time and time again, targeting just being way too broad. Rein it in as much as you can, and maybe we'll get onto metrics a little bit later in this, but your targeting should be narrow enough to give you a frequency. If we're talking cold audience, you probably want between 3 and 5. So if your audience is absolutely ginormous and your budget's really low, your frequency is probably going to be below 1, which means a particular person within your audience is only seeing your ad one time. Well, we know, scientific studies have proven that just seeing your brand one time is not enough to make you remember it. You actually need to see it multiple times in order to get aided recall signals back to the brain to stimulate it to remember what they've seen time and time again. So then that eventually, when the buying trigger occurs, they will associate your brand and that memory with the pain that they have and the thing that they actually want to go ahead and buy. So yeah, we want to be refining that audience. Having a smaller audience is pretty much always best to get frequency high whilst saving on budget, using it as efficiently as possible. Number 3 is a quick point about objective, because for the most part, LinkedIn objectives are pretty good. You can't go wrong with website visits or brand awareness or video views or conversions if you have the data. Most people don't, so I'd avoid those. They're all good. I tend to default to brand awareness because it gives me the biggest reach with the audience for usually the most reasonable cost, I would say. Website clicks, website visits are also fairly reasonable as well. You can get a good amount of reach there, but CPCs can sometimes be quite a lot higher. One thing I just wanted to say on objective here is that I still see a lot of businesses using lead gen ads with a completely cold audience and a completely kind of low quality offer that is just going to generate leads who will never ever buy from you. LinkedIn lead gen ads are the fastest way to burn any marketing budget for low quality leads who will ultimately not be interested in buying from you later down the line. It boggles my mind that businesses and marketing teams still spend, $50 to $100 on a lead from a LinkedIn lead gen campaign that will ultimately never buy from you. They've built up no connection with your brand just from that tiny piece of content that they've consumed. It might not even be relevant to them. They might not even enjoy it. And you've spent that much money on collecting an email address, which most of the time is going to be a personal email address too. Yet you can, go to a platform like Apollo, ZoomInfo, Cognism, get the same lead information for, literally 10 cents, whatever it may be, an absolute fraction of the price, and you've got that professional email there ready to use. And the arguments I've heard is that, they've consumed our content, they've seen our brand, so they'll be more likely to engage with us. But that's actually not true, because the offer that you've given to them isn't building a deep connection with your brand, because they could have consumed that content elsewhere without exchanging that level of information. And nobody wants to be nurtured and spammed after filling out a form. We're not in 2012 anymore where that's kind of a new and acceptable thing to be doing. Nobody wants to be submitting a form for what's probably a bog standard piece of content with no real original content, or original content's probably wrong. Original data anyway. No first party information within that content itself. Nothing totally unique that it would warrant an exchange of information, and then just be spammed by emails and spammed by salespeople on the phones to try and sell something that ultimately they're not ready to buy and probably don't want to buy actually. So yeah, when it comes to objectives, absolutely avoid lead gen ads as much as you can. I would even say when it comes to retargeting, there is maybe more of a case for it because there's more trust, there's more affinity with your brand. They may be more likely to sign up for your newsletter or exchange information for something of value within that stage. But for the most part, you can just leave that all ungated and your audience will consume it freely within their own time and come back to you when that buying trigger occurs, because you've built up the brand affinity, the brand awareness, and you're going to be top of mind when that does happen. This podcast is brought to you by Blend. We're a B2B website and demand generation agency. We work with ambitious businesses just like yours to create and execute effective demand generation strategies that drive pipeline for your business. We also recognize that your website is the most important asset you have in marketing. So we specialize in building scalable websites on HubSpot that convert the demand that you've created. If you want to find out more about our services and see real results that we've generated for businesses, visit blendb2b.com. Okay, number 4, the biggest mistake that I see when it comes to LinkedIn ads in particular is creative saying a lot without actually saying anything at all. And this one gets me so much because teams just don't see the problem that's wrong with it. It's not as clear cut as an audience or a particular budget or objective that's been set. You can't say that's categorically not the right thing to be doing or implementing in that scenario, because creative is up to a matter of opinions, right? It's down to preference and what somebody has come up with creatively. But this one is just absolutely everywhere. It's where ads look sleek, they look good, the headline sounds professional, it all joins up in terms of a creative eye sense, but you read it and you have absolutely no idea what the company does or what they sell or who they do it for. Stuff like, we empower revenue teams to unlock potential. That could be a SaaS company, it could be consulting, it could be coaching, AI. Literally anybody can say they do that, and it has some sort of impact. If you're creative when it comes to LinkedIn ads is too abstract, vague, or trying to be too clever, it's just not going to perform. People who are scrolling LinkedIn are poor on time. They want to be scrolling things and seeing immediate resonance within the feed with that piece of content. And if your ad isn't doing that, they're just going to scroll straight past it. If you think average dwell times on our ads are around 5 to 10 seconds, but an ad that isn't relevant isn't even going to get 5 seconds worth of screen time for that particular user. They're going to be looking at your ad for a couple of seconds, and if they don't understand it within that exact couple of seconds that they're dedicating to it, they are just going to keep scrolling. So ads that are trying to be too clever are usually the enemy of their own success. Whilst they're witty, they sound great, they're actually just not saying anything to the audience at all. And it might sound really boring just to say, well, just say exactly what you do and who you do it for and how you help them. Yeah, that might be more boring than coming up with a witty headline that you might see from Coca-Cola or Sony or Apple. But let's remember, we're in B2B. It doesn't mean we need to be boring, but it does mean we need to be direct, and we often don't have the brand equity behind us in order to be really fancy, really creative, because we're actually trying to craft a market for us. We're trying to build brand from zero in some cases, and by being too witty, you're just making sure that people don't understand what you do, rather than actually speaking to people directly and ensuring that they know exactly what you do and what you offer. Just when it comes to things like powering next gen growth enablement, that's actually one that I saw when the product could have probably said something more along the lines of automate sales follow-ups, book 30% more demos, no extra headcount. Like, it's benefit driven and there's no fluff. I've actually got a few examples here because, let's face it, we're not all perfect, right? Even though our ads, I'm really happy to say, all have over a 0.4% click-through rate, of course we have some that perform better than others. So let's now just show you a few different examples of ads and some that perform better than the others, because I think there are some clear reasons behind it, and it's times that we've tried to get too clever too. So this ad here, we've got 25 examples of bespoke tailored websites that are built on HubSpot, and I do like this ad from a creative standpoint, and we're still running it because the click-through rate is reasonable enough in order to have a varied creative ad set, but it doesn't perform as well as a more simplistic version of this ads. And what we're trying to do here is be a bit too clever and mimic AirDrop ultimately by saying we'd like to share 25 examples of 25 examples of creative HubSpot websites with you, but it looks a bit misleading perhaps with the accept or decline. Looks like we're trying to bait people out in order to click that, and it's maybe just not as clear as what we're actually trying to offer here in terms of the ad, which is basically a link to a blog with some of these examples on. The click-through rate on this was around 0.4%, whereas if we compare it to this, which is going to exactly the same place, has similar messaging as well, 25 examples of HubSpot websites, but it just shows them more visually laid out. It doesn't have the kind of clickbaity button options, and the headline is actually a lot bolder here. This actually performs at around 0.6%. So we've got a big improvement there on click-through rate, and I just think the clarity here is really helping us in this scenario. I've got another example here, and it's a similar concept that you might see around LinkedIn on ads every now and again, and it says conversational style. So we're trying to put ourselves in the shoes of our customer here, being the marketer, and we say, marketers, sick of seeing poor results from your website, and we've got message bubbles here. The CEO saying, how's the new website performing? Marketer saying, not great actually. Our traffic's down 30% and we're not seeing the leads we hope for. CEO says, maybe we should have gone with Blend after all. I hear they get great results. And actually on the surface, this ad looks really sleek. It's really cool. It's quite a kind of unique format to use on LinkedIn too. But again, it doesn't perform as well as our ad actually showing an example of our work. It's saying 132% increase in demo requests with new website. Like, this is an actual true case study that we have from a website that we got. 132% increases in demo requests is amazing, right? And we're not just trying to let the audience read all of these chat bubbles in order to get that. We're saying it right up front here, and I think that's the difference in there. When we have a look at this, you would have to stop on this ad for, 5 to 10 seconds in order to get what we're trying to say here. Whereas if you just scroll past this, you see, wow, 132%, and it immediately catches your eye and guides it then to the text below, increase in demo requests with new website. So a couple of examples there of when LinkedIn ads can be over engineered, over designed in order to try and say a message in a clever, witty way, when actually just saying the thing that you really want to say is easier, because it's easier to understand, it's easier for everybody to consume and recognize. B2B buyers don't just click and buy, they don't look and buy, they look and consume and learn, and that's what your LinkedIn ads need to be doing too. And you can't expect that somebody sees an ad for your brand once and will immediately go and buy it. There are cases where that does happen, right? If you happen to reach an audience who are in market to buy, which you will most likely do if you're targeting your complete ICP, you have no idea where they are in their journey. If they're about to pull the trigger and buy something, if they're totally new to this pain that they're experiencing and need educating, you don't know where they are. So the chances are actually you will hit some buyers who are in market to buy, and you might get lucky, or you might just be in the right time at the right place at the right time. That's not luck, it's just being there, and that's a great thing. But for most of your audience, 95% of them are not in market to buy, and that means you need to be building up trust. You need to be building brand affinity, brand recognition throughout the entire duration that they are not in market to buy, until that buying trigger happens and they actually now need a solution that your product or service falls into the category of. You then want to be as high up that vendor option list as possible when it comes to actually, deciding who to go with ultimately. And in order to do that, showing your ad once, it's going to be forgotten in 30 days. I can't remember the exact stat around that. You'll have to go and check out a guy called Dale Harrison, who is a absolute mastermind when it comes to brand recognition, brand memory, kind of cognitive information of brands. And brands are forgotten, I believe it's within 30 days or maybe even less from, seeing it the first time. I think it's less. And what our job is to enable people to remember our brand time and time again, and to have aided recall, so that when they see a portion of our brand, our message, our logo, our colors, whatever it may be, that they remember us, that they remember to associate us with that particular benefit, with that particular pain point. So when the buying trigger occurs, we are there. And simply running one single layer might get you, a decent frequency. But as soon as you layer on retargeting, you take the engaged people who might have clicked on your ad, viewed 75% of your video, they're actually engaged with you, you can then double down on the budget to reach those harder and faster with more and more ads, creating more and more recall, more and more affinity with your brand. So in the long run, it's going to benefit you because more people are going to remember you when that buying trigger occurs. One big issue in all of this is actually the measurement itself. People saying our LinkedIn ads aren't working are usually measuring the wrong thing. They don't actually understand if it's working or not. The trouble is when it comes to LinkedIn ads and brand ads in general, starting them in most cases won't have an immediate impact on, high intent leads, pipeline or revenue based on your sales cycle length. You might, again, end up being in the right place at the right time with those ads and have some success there. But for the most part, it's going to be a longer term play. And you need to give yourself enough time in order to measure the success of these ads. So the best way to measure LinkedIn ads and to understand its effectiveness on the conversion throughout your entire buyer journey and your funnel is to measure using self-reported attribution, which we've spoken about time and time again on this podcast. So asking people on your high intent forms how they heard about you. If you're running good LinkedIn ads, people will likely reference those LinkedIn ads of being how they first heard about you, or maybe even the most memorable part of that. You've then got your actual LinkedIn conversion tracking itself, which can easily identify any just view through conversions themselves. Let's not forget that if you do have some software attribution in place, like HubSpot, for example, which is fantastic at measuring clicks from your ads and how they've then progressed into your website, converted, etc., it misses the people that have just seen your ad in LinkedIn, gone to Google, searched for your brand name, and then converted later. View through conversions will give you that data, so it's really important. And hopefully that's where self-reported attribution can capture some of that as well. Because self-reported attribution then enables you to tie that attribution type, LinkedIn ads, social, whatever you may bucket it as, and then track that progression all the way through to pipeline and revenue. So now you can truly split out your channels, LinkedIn being one of them. How much are we investing in it? How many high intent leads have we got? What is their value in terms of pipeline? How many are converted into closed won? There you've got your channel ROI. The final point is marketing teams who aren't iterating and just ultimately guessing. LinkedIn is a channel where I've found shipping fast, iterating fast is the way to go, because you're running a lot of ads. There's a lot of volume out there when it comes to, high budgets, high impressions, high clicks. And you learn a lot from being able to run a high volume of ads in a short space of time. The best campaigns that I've seen that I've ran as well are a result of iteration and not luck. And when it comes to like A/B testing and testing granular things on LinkedIn, it can work. You need a lot of budget, a lot of volume there to say, oh, okay, let's just tweak this button color, or let's just tweak this headline. You can do that, and I have done that in the past, and we might have seen a winner by 0.05% click-through rate, and okay, we might have a few extra clicks then onto our website. But actually, I find when it comes to iterating, what we're trying to do here is find the concept, the type of ad that's actually outperforming all the others. Is it a screenshot style review ad? Is it a clear, one-line message, exactly what we do? Is it a couple of product benefits? Is it a case study with stats? What's the actual format and what's the wording being used in that format that's resonating most? That will allow you to then lean into more of that format and do more of those. You can get into the kind of micro A/B test, but I actually prefer to lean into the kind of broader concepts that I work in and double down on those because I found that, in the past, they can have improvements or differences of 0.1, 0.2, 0.3% click-through rate instead of the smaller iterations that you get from just changing micro things on an ad. So just because one campaign has flopped in the past and you haven't seen the results that you thought you were going to see from LinkedIn ads, absolutely doesn't mean that it's not a channel that's going to work going into the future. So I would say always be able to come back, iterate, and not go off of guesswork, but use the data inside the platform in order to iterate, test, and improve over time. Hopefully that's given you some insight on where to look if you're asking the question, why aren't my LinkedIn ads working? You've got some places to look there to hopefully improve those ads for you. And just remember, LinkedIn ads aren't magic. You can't turn them off and immediately generate 10x more pipeline and double your revenue overnight, but they're absolutely not broken. They may be more expensive than a platform like Meta. Of course they're going to be, because the targeting is just so much more advanced for a B2B company. But you can just have so much huge success there, and brilliant ROI really when you get everything right, from the audience, the targeting, objective, creative, measurement. When you have that all in place, all working correctly, you can really start to build an engine which is going to build your brand, generate demand for you, and ultimately drive revenue for your business. So fix all those things, and hopefully LinkedIn will be a channel that's really going to work for you going forwards. But if you did want to chat to me about LinkedIn campaigns, or just wanted to shoot me an ad, get my thoughts, whatever it may be, DM me on LinkedIn. Always open to that. Happy to connect and share ad examples, whatever it may be. So yeah, feel free to hit me up on there. If you haven't liked or subscribed on whatever channel it is that you listen to this to, it might be YouTube or one of the audio players, then please do so. Demand Decoded is growing rapidly at the moment, which is amazing to see. I'm sure the HubSpot podcast network has had something to do with that. We've had Josh on for a couple of episodes in the last two, which were a lot more detail orientated. Well, not detail. They actually weren't detail orientated in terms of tactical analysis, but they were further up the chain, should we say, when it comes to strategic marketing thinking, approaches to take, and kind of C-level executive board thinking, which is still fantastic. And we'll get Josh on in the future for some more episodes, a bit more tactical today, which is hopefully still valuable. So yeah, that's my ramble over for this anyway, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Just love where Demand Decoded is going at the moment, and really, really looking forward to the next episode. See you next time.